Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Swami. My team members are Gokul, Krishna and Syed, Nihal and Akinloye Omoboriowo. We are talking about the impacts on the tariffs and the microeconomic factors on the US stock market returns. Introduction: US trade policies and stock market uh, content. US imposed traffic under Trump to protect the domestic industries, aim to reduce the trade defiance and deflects and boost the local manufacturing, resulted in the market volatility, investor uncertainty, economic shifts. Our study exposed these tariffs and factors like GDP, inflation, interest rate affected US stock returns and focus on the uh, CNP 500 VIX index sector-wise impact using economic analysis. And the problem statement is the tariff dispute simple supply chain and increase market violating. And this analysis qualifies their effect on US stock market returns.
My name is Gokul Krishna, and the topic is research objectives, what we aim to do. So, the main goal of our study is to understand how tariff announcement actually affect the stock market, especially big indices like S&P 500. We also looked at how these trade policies influence overall market volatility, and we used tools like VIX index to measure that. And finally, we wanted to see if all sectors are affected equally or if some industries, especially those that depend heavily on exports or import inputs, get it harder than others. The next topic is theoretical framework, understanding market dynamics. Our analysis is grounded in the efficient market hypothesis, or EMH for short. This theory basically says that all available information, including things like tariff announcements, is already reflected in stock prices. So, when new tariff policies are announced, we expect the market to react the right way. But in reality, things aren't always that clean. Trade wars create uncertainty, and not everyone has access to the same information or reacts the same way. That's where we see some deviations from the theory. Investor behavior, fear of policy changes, or even geopolitical tensions can cause unexpected reactions. So, so this study doesn't just test the theory; it also tries to understand how real world dynamics differ from what model might predict. Thank you.
This study set out to examine the relationship between US tariff announcement and financial market reaction, particularly focusing on stock market returns. Enjoying a quantitative research design, it integrated econometrics modeling and event study methodology to assess both the short-term shocks and lingering effect associated with tariff policies. Despite the sound theoretical foundation and robust data collection strategy, the empirical result represents notable limitations and prompt broader reflection on market behavior. The regression model revealed a weak explanatory capacity with an R-squared value of only 0.0799. This suggests that less than 8% of the variance in stock market returns can be explained by the selected independent variables. including tariff rate, macroeconomics indicators, and trade uncertainties. The adjusted R squared value of 0.0049 further indicates that the inclusion of these variables may in fact reduce the model's predictive accuracy. Statistical significance across variables was lacking. Tariff rate, the main variable of interest, had a positive coefficient of 0.7263, but a p-value of 0.196, rendering it statistically insignificant. Similarly, the GDP growth, inflation rate, and exchange rate all exhibited high p-values, suggesting minimal individual explanatory power. The interest rate variable returned a coefficient of 0, indicating either a modeling issue or data quality problem. The trade uncertainty index yielded an error, further pointing to possible data formatting or structural inconsistencies in its operationalization. How do we interpret that? The results imply that US stock market may not react strongly or predictably to tariff announcements, at least not in the manner captured by this model. Despite widespread discourse suggesting that trade policy uncertainty should influence investor behavior and market performance, the empirical evidence here suggests that a more muted response, that there are several possible interpretations. One, investor adaptation. Markets may have already priced in the likelihood of tariff announcement, especially during the 2018-2019 trade war, reducing the observable volatility or return shift associated with each new policy update. Macroeconomic insensitivity. Traditional macroeconomic indicators such as GDP growth, interest rate, and inflation may not have immediate or isolated effect on short-term market performance. Their influence may be better captured in long-term investment trend or through more sector-specific model. Omitted variables. Other qualitative and behavioral factors such as investor sentiment, geopolitical tension, or corporate earnings announcement may exert a stronger influence on market returns and were not accounted for in this model. Data limitation. Measurement error, lag effects, and the granularity of the data may dilute the short-term effects that are better captured on a daily or intra-day basis using high-frequency data. The implication of the research. The findings challenge the assumption of macroeconomics policies and trade announcements in a clear manner. Linear effects on financial markets. This calls for more nuanced research approach that incorporates high-frequency event study to detect short-term volatility, behavioral finance model that accounts for sentiment and media narratives, sector-specific or firm-level analysis, particularly in industries more exposed to global trade, alternative variable construction such as real-time trade sentiment indices or volatility measures. Overall, while this study did not produce statistically significant results supporting the tariff market linkage. It provides critical insight into the complexity of modeling market reaction and underlines the need for multidimensional approach when interpreting financial dynamics in the context of international policy change. Thank you.
Hi, so I'll be talking about the contradiction and limitations. Our regression analysis found no strong correlation between stock market returns and the independence variable we tested. The R-squared value was 0.0799, which means the module explained less than 8% of the variation of the stock market performance. To put it simply, our model couldn't reliably predict stock returns based on the economic indicators. We included the adjusted R-square was negative and the overall p-value was 0.3459, showing the model isn't statistically significant. Individually, none of the variables were significant either. For example, US tariff rates had a positive coefficient but a p-value of 0.196, so the result isn't statistically meaningful. This is surprising because prior studies has shown that the traffic raises prices and disrupt markets. However, our analysis contradicts that. One possible reason is that the tariffs may have indirect or delayed effects that aren't captured in short-term data. The findings suggest that tariffs alone do not drive stock market behavior, at least not in the immediate sense. So there are some limitations. First, we used a short time frame which might not be enough to capture long-term effects. Second, we had omitted variables like our investor behavior, geographical risk, or specific industry performance that would play a major role in stock movements. These gaps would explain why our model didn't perform well. So the conclusion on the future works is based on these results. We conclude that the tariffs and the standard macroeconomics indicators are weak predators of stock market returns, at least in the time frame and structure we analyzed. The study highlights how complex and multi-fractional market behavior is. It also suggests that more advanced methods might be needed to uncover patterns that simply regression models can't find. Here's what we recommend to future research. Use nonlinear models to capture complex relations that linear regression miss. Conduct event studies to analyze the impact of specific tariff announcement rather than general trade. Explore long-term effects such as reshoring, trade policy change, and supply chain restructuring, which may take time to reflect in stock prices. We also believe there's room to investigate other potential drivers like investor sentiments, geopolitical developments, or sector-specific events. These factors may offer a stronger explanatory power than the traditional economics variable we tested. So, and the references we took are the key references that guided our research are MIT, Bound. Our data resources came from Fred, the World Bank, Yahoo Finance. So yeah, that's all from my side. Thank you.